like some water, there's a water fountain over to the right-hand side. You're welcome to walk around to see the artwork as while the performances are ongoing, or feel free to sit and enjoy the performances. So let's welcome Sophia Playa to the stage, performing Capriccio by Johannes Brahms. Get Your Gun is a story about rough and tumble Annie Oakley, who is the best shot around. A backwoods gal, Annie uses her skill to support her family by selling the game she hunts. When she's discovered by Buffalo Bill and persuaded to join his Wild West show, Annie is plucked from obscurity and becomes the toast of Europe. Annie meets her match in Frank Butler, Buffalo Bill's leading man and star marksman. She falls head over heels for Frank, but soon eclipses him as the main attraction in the show. Her success with a gun makes trouble for Annie's chance of romance. Annie Get Your Gun follows the journey of Annie and Frank, revealing their competitive natures as they vie for best shot and each other's hearts. Anything You Can Do, sung by Amanda Nordstrom and Wes Stewart.
And now, little lady, if you'll kindly step up to the parapet, I'll give you a lesson in marksmanship.
You couldn't give me a lesson in long-distance spitting. Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Anything you can be, I can be greater. Sooner or later, I'm greater than you.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I can shoot a partridge with a single cartridge.
I can get a sparrow with a bow and arrow.
I can live on bread and cheese.
And only on that?
Yes.
So can I write.
Ha.
Anything you can buy, I can buy cheaper. I can buy anything cheaper than you.
50 cents.
40 cents.
30 cents.
20 cents.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Anything you can sing, I can sing higher.
I can sing anything higher than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
How do you do that?
I'm a girl.
Anything you can say, I can say softer.
I can say anything softer than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
I can drink my liquor faster than a flicker.
I can drink it quicker and get even sicker.
I can open any safe.
Well, that getting caught?
Yes.
That's what I thought, you crook.
Anything you can sing, I can sing longer.
I can sing anything longer than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No,
yes,
you
I
can't. Yes, you can!
Anything you can wear, I can wear better. In what you wear, I look better than you.
In my coat?
In your vest.
In my shoes?
In your hat.
No, you can't!
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Anything you can say, I can say faster.
I can say anything faster than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
I can jump a hurdle.
I can wear a girdle.
I can knit a sweater.
I can wear it better.
I can do most anything.
Can you make a pie?
No.
Neither can I.
Ha! Anything you can sing, I can sing sweeter.
I can sing anything sweeter than you.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't.
John 15 through 17 states, "No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should abide, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give it to you. These things I command you, so that you will love one another." Welcome, Juliana and Jamie Hinson.
Servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends, but I have called you friends, I have called you friends. These things I command you, so that you will love one another.
Good evening, everyone. I feel bad now. I'm going to be bringing the mood down a little bit. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael, and as most of you do know, I'm an airline pilot, just like my dad, who's in the audience there. You wave hi. It's been a little bit somber this last week going to work, and both my dad and I, as airline pilots, it's the recent accident in DC has hit close to home. And so this is a piece that I've written in honor of the families and victims of the mid-air collision titled Wings of Grace.
Hello, we're going to have a little intermission before our next performance, which will be the choir from Mary Washington. So please feel free to walk around and look at the amazing art that we have here. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the University of Mary Washington Choirs has been coming to the Festival of the Arts for several years. Let's welcome Dr. Ryder and his choir.
Bonny banks and by yon bonny Hello? Is this on? There we go. Hello, my name's Donald. I am, of course, part of the choir. I also am a bagpiper in the UW Eagle Pipe Band. You'll hear me in a drummer, Micah. Where is he? There he is, Micah. You'll hear us in a minute playing on the pipes and drums. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what that song was about. That was, of course, Loch Lomond. It's an old Scottish tune. Dates back to at least 1745 in the Jacobite Uprising. Which, if you know anything about Scottish history, that was a sad time for Highland history, right before the Acts of Settlement, of course, the Battle of Culloden. I'll talk a bit on that at length in a minute. But anyway, it's a love song about two lovers who will never meet again, probably because the King of England wouldn't let them. Anyway, this next song we're going to sing is called Mari's Wedding. It's a traditional Scottish folk tune. It was written by, John Roderick Bannerman. Actually about a certain Mari MacNeven. I learned this just 30 minutes ago. Anyway, this Mari, she won a singing contest, and so John wrote a song about her. Now, what we're going to be singing is actually just the chorus. The verses are in Gaelic, and they don't really rhyme in English. So anyway, Mari's Wedding.
Step we gaily on we go, heel for heel and toe for toe, arm in arm and row on row, all to Mari's wedding. Over hill ways up and down, myrtle green and bracken brown, past the shillings through the town, all for sake of Mari. Step we gaily on we go, heel for heel and toe for toe, arm in arm and row on row, all to Mari's wedding. Red her cheeks as Rowan's are, brighter eyes than any star, fairest of them all by far is our darling Mari. Step we gaily on we go, heel for heel and toe for toe, arm in arm and row on row, all to Mari's wedding. Plenty herring, plenty meal, plenty peat to fill her creel, plenty bonny bands as wheel, that's the toast for Mari. Step we gaily on we go, heel for heel and toe for toe, arm in arm and row to Mari's wedding. Where the heel things up and down, myrtle green and bracken brown, past the shillings through the town, all for sake of Mari. Step we gaily on we go, heel for heel and toe for toe, arm in arm and row on row, all to Mari's wedding. Step we gaily on we go, heel for heel and toe for toe, arm in arm and row on row, all to Mari's wedding, all to Mari's wedding, all to Mari's wedding.
So that's the Scottish part of our program. And we're going to take a dramatic turn from here. But what you're going to hear next is a teaser, a trailer, if you will. In April, these students, along with quite a few members of our community and the UMW Philharmonic, are going to be presenting Mozart's Requiem. That's April 13th in Dot Auditorium, by the way, if you're interested in that. We're going to give you just a teaser, one of the movements from Mozart's Requiem. This is Lacrimosa.
No.
Our chamber choir is up next, and one among them will tell you about the first piece they're going to sing.
Let me fix this for you. Thank you. So this next song we are doing is called We Wear the Mask. It's an adaptation of a Paul Laurence Dunbar poem of the same name, written in 1895. This poem, Dunbar dictates the experiences in which African Americans felt in this period of Reconstruction, about how they had to hide aspects of themselves to fit into society better. Part of this poem that makes it very special is that it is written in what is called African American vernacular English, which is, the way that people would have spoken, or African American people would have spoken or written in this time period. It's very powerful because it captures the feeling of having to fit into society in the way that they would have said it. Thank you. Oh, wait.
Our next two selections are from the Great American Songbook, jazz standards. The first is a tune called Skylark. They're both Sky songs, by the way, I should have mentioned that. And the second one, both of them are probably familiar too. The second is Orange Colored Sky. The person who played, well, first of all, I didn't introduce earlier, Meredith Walburn is over there on the cello. She played along on Loch Lomond there. And playing the part of the wee birdies singing in Loch Lomond, but also the part of the skylark on the flute is Sasha Murphy over there. So. And our soloist on Skylark, we have three soloists. I have to look to make sure. Ethan Greer is singing the solo on Skylark, and then Tanner Gillikin and Sarah Linehan are going to be singing solos in Orange Colored Sky. So here we go.
as a will-o'-the-wisp, lazy as a loon, sad as a gypsy serenading the moon. Oh, skylark, I don't know if you can find these things, but my heart is riding on your wings. So if you see them anywhere, won't you leave me there? Oh, skylark, skylark, Flash, bam, alakazam-bop. I was walking along, minding my business, when out of an orange-colored sky, flash, bam, alakazam, wonderful you came by. I was walking along, taking in sunshine, out of that orange-colored view, flash, bam, alakazam, I gotta look at you. One look and I yell timber, watch out for flying glass. 'Cause the ceiling fell in and the bottom fell out. I went into a spin and I started to shout, I've been hit. This is it, this is it. How I was walking along, minding my business, when love came and hit me in the eye. We went flash, bam, alakazam, out of an orange-colored sky. It went ooh, flash. It went ooh, bam, alakazam.
The lightning struck me, the thunder roared, and baby, I've never felt like this before.
It went ooh, flash. It went ooh, bam, alakazam.
Don't run for cover, I love you like no other. I'll take good care of you.
One look and I yell timber, watch out for flying glass. 'Cause the ceiling fell in and the bottom fell out. I went into a spin and I started to shout, I've been hit. This is it, this is it. How I was walking along, minding my business, when love came and hit me in the eye. It went flash, bam, alakazam, out of an orange-colored, purple striped, pretty green polka dotted sky. Flash, bam, alakazam. It's goodbye. Oh yeah.
We're going to switch gears really one more time, but sort of two. These last two pieces are more in the blues and gospel arena. The first one features our sopranos and altos. It's a piece by Huddy Ledbetter, also known as Lead Belly, arranged by Maura Smiley. It's called Bring Me Little Water, Sylvie. I hope you'll enjoy that one. And then we're going to close with Josephine Polones's arrangement of City Called Heaven. while they're getting back into place. We would be nowhere without the hands of Kathy Hoskins back there on the piano, if you could give her a round of applause. This next piece, City Called Heaven, features soloist Aurora Madsen, who's going to come up here and take this mic from me in just a second. Also, if you want to hear some of these songs again and then some more songs, these students have a concert on campus at UMW next Sunday night, February 16th at 7:30 p.m. It's free, so come bring the whole family. Hopefully we'll see you then, and thank you for inviting us tonight. This is City Called Heaven.
Left
guys hear me?
Not on the phone.
Okay. It's on. All right, there we go. So, as I was saying, we are in the communion of the Presbyterian Church in America. So this evening, as we talk a little bit about Scottish influence in the Presbyterian Church, if you know much about the Presbyterian Church, you'll see that it's hard to overestimate this influence. It really should come with a tag that says, "Made in Scotland." So this evening, as I said, I want to share a little bit about our Scottish heritage as Presbyterians, and then also how the Presbyterian Church came to be and how it came to America. So to start off with, you may wonder, what does it mean to be Presbyterian? Well, the word Presbyterian comes from the Greek word presbyteros, which means elder or overseer. So in the New Testament, we read that when the apostles, those whom Jesus had appointed to go bear testimony of him to the nations, when the apostles established churches, they appointed elders to oversee these churches. And these were men who had been Christians for a suitable period of time, not recent converts, who demonstrated integrity and Christian maturity as well as the ability to teach. And so the term Presbyterian refers to a particular form of church government, whereby the church is overseen by an assembly of elders. Now, in the Presbyterian Church in America, this is implemented at 3 levels of organization. At the level of the individual church, the body of elders is called the session. At the regional level, the elders gather together in what's called the presbytery, and then at the national level, they're organized in what's called the General Assembly. So Presbyterianism is really, it's one of 3 forms of church government that we see in churches around the world today. The other 2 being the Episcopal form of government and the Congregationalist form of government. So the Episcopal, in that system, this divides the office of overseer into 2 levels. The regional level, and the person in the office is called the bishop at that level, and then in the local church, it's called the pastor or the priest. And so we see this model in Catholic churches, and Eastern Orthodox churches, and Anglican churches, the Church of England. The Congregationalist model is basically where the church is governed by the congregation as a whole. And we see this model commonly in Baptist and non-denominational churches. So we know that Christianity arrived quite early in Britain. The ancient Christian Tertullian, writing in approximately AD 200, tells us, quote, "The regions of Britain, which have never been penetrated by the Romans, have received the religion of Christ," end quote. Scottish tradition holds King Donald, along with his family and court, were baptized in AD 203. Now we know that in AD 563, St. Columba and 12 companions sailed from Ireland to the island of Iona and established a monastery there. And in the slides, this is a picture of the monastery. It still stands today and is still in use today. In the years that followed this, the Picts and the Gaels, these were people who lived in Scotland, converted to Christianity. And this is widely regarded as the birth of Christianity in Scotland, and also the clear establishment of the church in that country. Now, as the church continued to grow and gain firm establishment throughout the Middle Ages, a set of traditions and doctrines slowly developed over a period of centuries that crystallized. As one example, dating back to the Roman period, the Mass was continuing to be celebrated in Latin rather than in the common language. Similarly, the Latin Vulgate Bible translation was the version that was in use by the Western Church during this time, and it couldn't be read by most individuals except the well-educated. So as a result, the common people were not easily able to encounter the words of the apostles and the prophets, except indirectly through church traditions and teachings. This was actually true for many priests as well. So, to understand the Presbyterian Church, we need to understand a little about the historical concept in which it was formed, which is the Protestant Reformation. So as the Renaissance came into full bloom, human scholarship began to flourish across Europe. And one of the aspects of this was a renewed interest in going back to the classical texts and the idea of going back to these original sources rather than understanding them through interpreters. There was a Dutch Catholic priest, show a picture of him here, named a humanist scholar by the name of Erasmus of Rotterdam. And what he did is he took existing Greek manuscripts of different New Testament books residing around Europe, and he combined them together to publish a complete Greek New Testament in 1516. Now, the original language of the New Testament was Greek, and so for the first time, the whole New Testament in its original language was being widely circulated. And scholars were able to read the text of the New Testament unaltered by translation. So like Erasmus, many other scholars of the time were also beginning to study the New Testament in its original language. And some of these were starting to perceive discrepancies between the Bible and certain church doctrines. Erasmus himself pointed out some important translation errors found in the Latin Vulgate that actually pressed upon church doctrine. As one example, the Greek word metanoeo, which means repent, was rendered in the Vulgate as do penance. Again, closely related, but not the same word, not the same meaning. And so you can see how this would raise questions. And so, of course, these questions quickly resulted in significant controversies. Now, during this time, there was another scholar who also began to pore over the New Testament. This was a young German priest and professor of theology by the name of Martin Luther. So on October 31st, 1517, Martin Luther nailed his famous or infamous, depending on your perspective, 95 Theses to the door of All Saints Church in Wittenberg. So written in Latin, these called into question certain church doctrines. Now at the very center of this controversy was the doctrine of justification, the question of how one's sins could be forgiven and how one could be put into a right relationship with God. That is, how could one be justified before God? So the church doctrine of the time stressed the church's sacraments and good works to attain initially and then also maintain standing in one's justification. By contrast, Luther and others were struggling to reconcile church doctrine with passages in the New Testament that seemed to teach that while good works are important, it's through faith in Christ, not our works, that we're justified. Thus, irreconcilable differences occurred between traditional Roman Catholics who believed that the church could not err and therefore had not, and those who believed that some of the church's doctrines needed to be reformed in light of the Holy Scriptures. Thus, the Protestant Reformation began and quickly swept across Europe. Now, when we think of the Protestant Reformation, probably the first thing that comes to mind is Germany, and this was the epicenter of the Reformation and the birthplace of Lutheranism. But there were several other major streams of the Reformation that came in different regions under different reformers. So we have Martin Luther in Germany, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. So you can see those northwestern areas shaded in the light white. We have John Calvin in Geneva, so we can see here on the map, Switzerland. You'll also notice that Scotland is colored in the same color as Switzerland, and there's a connection there, which I'll talk about in just a couple of minutes here. There was Jan Hus in the Czech Republic, and then we can see England, the Church of England, which was, the Anglican Church was mostly centered in England. So as we look at what happened in Scotland during the Reformation, there were several earlier reformers that emerged in the beginning around the 1520s. However, as the Scottish Reformation took full shape, this was under the leadership of a man named John Knox. And Knox was ordained to the Catholic priesthood in 1540 and appointed as a papal notary. In 1543, Knox encountered Protestant Christianity as he tutored the two sons of two Protestant Scottish lords. That same year, he experienced an inner conversion of heart as he read John 17. And this was the same passage that the mathematician Pascal was converted to Christ as well, about 100 years later. So he went on to become a preacher, John Knox, in St. Andrews in 1547. So shortly after this time, St. Andrews fell to the French, and many citizens, including Knox, were captured. So Knox was enslaved on a French ship for about 19 months, and then was released when he made his way to England and served as a preacher in Berwick. He also assisted English reformer Thomas Cranmer during this time in bringing the first edition of the Book of Common Prayer into widespread use. Now in the year 1550, Queen Mary I, whom we know as Bloody Mary, came to power, and this spurred a widespread persecution of Protestants. So as a result, John Knox left the country and went to Geneva, where he came under the mentorship of the famed reformer John Calvin. During this time, he also served as a pastor to English Protestant refugees. Now, while he was in Geneva, Knox witnessed the Reformed Church governed by elders from within rather than by bishops who had become intertwined with political power. So during this time, he developed a strong conviction that the church must be unencumbered from outside impositions, including the state, in matters of doctrine, interpretation of the scriptures, and in preaching. So this is a picture of John Knox. In 1559, Knox returned to Scotland and began preaching, again, bringing these convictions with him. So under his preaching, Reformed Christianity began to explode in Scotland. Moreover, during this time, the Reformed Church in Scotland began to take on a Presbyterian form of government, similar to the one that he observed in Geneva. So this is the time when the term Presbyterian, as we know it, began to take on its current meaning. Now, the church in Scotland struggled against those who wanted to impose the episcopacy, until finally in 1592, the Parliament recognized the Presbyterian government in the Church of Scotland. However, continued efforts to impose the episcopacy led to struggles for church freedom continuing in the years to come. Now, in the year 1638, something called the National Covenant was drafted, and this is a pledge to preserve Presbyterian worship and governance in Scotland. And this would become central to the Scottish resistance and also led to an alliance between the Scottish and English parliaments in the Civil War that overthrew Charles I. This alliance, however, unraveled with Oliver Cromwell's rise to power in the 1640s, who opposed Presbyterianism and instead supported an independent congregational church government. So Scottish Presbyterians rejected the congregationalism and began to negotiate with Charles II, who signed the National Covenant, promising to preserve Presbyterian governance and worship in Scotland. So after being restored to the throne in 1660, Charles broke his promise, refusing to honor the National Covenant, and attempted to reimpose the episcopacy. And this led to a nearly 30-year period of resistance and violent persecutions of the Presbyterians. And those who were resisted were known as the Covenanters for their adherence to the covenant. So through a turn of events, in the year 1688, a couple by the name of William and Mary, after whom that little college in Williamsburg is named, came to power. And being devout Protestants themselves, they removed the episcopacy from Scotland and granted the Church of Scotland to operate freely under the Presbyterian form of government. Thus, the Scottish Church, or as they called it, the Kirk, was now firmly Presbyterian. So by the late 17th century, Scottish and Scotch-Irish immigrants began to bring Presbyterianism to North America, especially in the middle colonies like Philadelphia. American Presbyterianism grew significantly from its early beginnings and became highly influential around the country. In the year 1727, Scottish Presbyterian William Tennant founded the Law College in Warminster, Pennsylvania, which trained many future leaders. So several Law College graduates became trustees of the College of New Jersey, which we now know today as Princeton University. And Princeton went on to become a key center for Reformed and Presbyterian theology in the late 19th century. It employed 19th century theological titans, including Archibald Alexander, A.A. Hodge, Charles Hodge, and B.B. Warfield. Many of the Scotch-Irish, also who initially settled in Pennsylvania, made their way down to Virginia, bringing their Presbyterian faith with them. Accordingly, the Presbyterian Church also became established in our region during colonial times. Samuel Davies was a prominent Presbyterian minister and one of the first non-Anglican preachers licensed here to preach in the colonies. He spent most of his time, most of his career, preaching in Hanover County. He was active in the First Great Awakening, and at one time tried to persuade famed evangelist Jonathan Edwards to move to Virginia. So Davies went on to become the fourth president of the College of New Jersey, Princeton, from the years 1759 to 1761. So after the colonial era, the Presbyterian Church continued to flourish in America and in Virginia. Certainly, much has happened in our history since colonial times, which, like our forebears in Scotland, includes periods of challenge and struggle. However, by God's mercy, we continue into the present with our aim to proclaim and live in the hope of the gospel. What is this hope? The first epistle of St. John tells us the following: "In this the love of God was made manifest among us, that God sent his only Son into the world so that we might live through him. In this is love, not that we have loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the propitiation for our sins. Beloved, if God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. So in conclusion, we've seen a little bit about how the Presbyterian Church was born and grew up in Scotland. Indeed, our Scottish heritage has left an indelible mark on the Presbyterian churches in America. Thank you guys for inviting me, and I hope you enjoy the wonderful art showcase and future upcoming performances.
Oh, I know you were expecting the Reverend tonight. I'm so sorry, he's sick. He brought me a letter by post today. Took a long time, but I did get it. And boy, did he give me a lot of information to tell you. So let me tell you a little bit about the Reverend. Reverend Samuel Wilson, he's born in North Carolina in 1783. He's a young boy when he realized he wanted to be in the ministry. Now his father, he's getting a good education. He's getting Latin and Greek. He's getting literature and the maths. He's a very smart young man, and he does go to college, but it is in college that he does receive a calling. He realizes he wants to be a minister. Now, in order for him to be a minister, he needs to get some money. So what he does, he becomes a teacher. And that's how he raises enough money in order to become a pastor. Now, this is going to be something that you hear about throughout his life, starting with his college days. We'll talk a little bit about what happens with the pastor. In 1806, by the way, if I hadn't said, he is part of the Presbyterian Church. Now, in Fredericksburg, we don't have a lot of Presbyterians in 1806. We're coming off of the Church of England. In fact, this will be the first Presbyterian church. He comes here as a missionary, and I have to read this. This was his impression of Fredericksburg. And this actually is a quote from somebody else. When he was journeying, he stopped and spent a night here in Fredericksburg. This would have been around 1805. And he found that the whole town was alive with excitement about the races. Lots of gambling coming around here. It came into the mind of Mr. Wilson that in Fredericksburg, this was a field. This was a gospel field where he was going to begin his ministry in the gospel of Christ. Well, we know that gambling is a big thing here. We know a lot of people are going to the races right outside of Fredericksburg. They're buying horses. They're gambling on the horses and making some money. So he noticed that was something that was needed here. So in 1806, he does get a call from the Presbyterian. He comes here, and he begins his ministry. He's only here for 2 months, and then he's going to go back, and he's going to get married to his wife, Elizabeth, and in the course of their marriage, they're going to have 6 children. But during that time, he's going to come back here, and he is going to start a church. Now, the first church that he has, he's got only 3 Presbyterians that are here in Fredericksburg out of the whole town. But it was shortly, within 4 weeks, a lot of people took notice of him. They wanted to know who this young minister was. They wanted to know who this young missionary was in town, so they started going to his church. And it grew and it grew. Now, I do have something here. This first 4 weeks, he does have a quote that he wants me to share with you. Amidst much despondence and great discouragement, businesses and amusements flourished on the Sabbath. They're not taking their time going church, they're doing fun things on the Sabbath. He noticed that. He also said vice was rampant. Fredericksburg doesn't sound like a place that he was expecting to be, but do you know he loved this town? And it started at this point. Now, after he marries his wife and he comes here, he actually moves to a place that we're all familiar with. It was Mary Washington's house. He moves in there. He's going to do something that we already know. He's going to become a teacher. He realizes that, and this is his quote again, he wants to make sure that I tell you this, that he noticed that the education of youth in 1806 was totally neglected of Christian instruction. The Bible was a book unknown in their schools, but little was read at home. And he saw it as a duty to God to build the education here of the youth in Fredericksburg. He thinks that if this happens, he's going to raise the conduct of the Fredericksburgians. I'm not sure if that happened, but it might have. Now, in 1806, he's going to start with his first school. And it's going to happen there at the Mary Washington House, as we refer to it today. And it's going to be older boys, and they're going to get their Latin, they're going to get their Greek, they're going to get their geography, they're going to get the maths, they're going to get literature. They're also going to be studying the catechisms, both Watts catechisms and the Westminster catechisms as we know them. He starts that, but the next year he realizes that there's a lot of young boys who do not know how to read and write, and they need just basic education, so he's going to bring them in. So the younger boys are going to start educating here. Now you have to remember, he's doing all this while he's building a church. Now it's going to be just a couple years later, well, about 9 years later, that he's actually going to start a girls' school. And he has this woman by the name of Mary Rails, and she's going to be the headmistress of the girls. So now he's got boys and he's got girls in his school. And you know that man taught 5 hours a day. No, I'm sorry. I think I misunderstood. He said 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, plus 3 services he preached, Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and Wednesday evening, plus all of the visitation to his house and the visitation he needed to do to go visit his people from his church to see how they are doing, to visit the sick and the shut-in. He was a busy man. Now, all through this, he does say that his teaching, beginning back in college, does make him ill. It is something that really does work against his health, but he pushes through that, and he still teaches. So what happens with his church? Well, he's going to get, in 1810, he's going to get his first church building. And let me tell you something interesting. So do you all know who Hugh Mercer is? Hugh Mercer from the Revolutionary War? Well, when he passes away, he's going to give some land to his daughter. His daughter is now referred to as Mrs. Patton. And Mrs. Patton is going to donate one of her lots to him in order to start the church. Now, I'm going to take a little side. I am no longer who I am, but I want you to know something about Mrs. Patton. This is General George Patton's great-great-grandmother. Anyway, she donates the land they have a small wooden structure there, and they're going to be there for a number of years until they outgrow it. During that time, they're going to start looking at purchasing. Now, if you ever get a chance to do this, I don't know if I have the picture up here or not, but there is a beautiful brick home there now. These are just some advertisements at the time, advertising the different ones. That's the building. If you are around Fredericksburg, you might see that lovely little building. That's the property where the original church was. When it gets built to this beautiful home, it's going to become another school. In fact, it's going to be for orphan girls. The church takes over and they're going to start educating orphan girls in there. But let's talk a little bit about the new church. So, they will eventually build this new church. He will be a pastor for a while, and this is in 1834, and he'll be a pastor for a while there. But several times he will be approached in order to go teach somewhere, to be a pastor at a church, at a bigger church, more advantageous, more money. He doesn't do it. He says, even in his writings, he says that he loved Fredericksburg too much. But it was in 1841 that he is eventually drawn away. That's because there was a death in the faculty of the Union Theological Seminary, leaving a huge gap. So at that point, he's going to go down and he is going to become a professor, and he will be there until 1869. So that's the story of our first Presbyterian pastor here in town. I'm going to take about 2 minutes of questions if anybody has questions about the Reverend downtown. Probably don't have any, because you don't know who he is. That's okay. Yes? What was the predominant faith during 1806 when he gets here? It's going to be the Anglican or the Episcopalian Church, because that church was the Church of England, and it was the only show in town. But at this time, actually, I think, and you'd have to look into St. George's records, but I don't think they have a pastor at this point, making it even a little bit more confusing for their congregants. Yes? Did his children stay locally? No, a number of them become pastors themselves, the Presbyterian Church, and they will all spread out. You can actually, and this is actually jumping the gun a little bit, he's buried down at Hampton-Sydney University. You guys are familiar with that? Hampton-Sydney is a all-boys school, and it was actually established in 1775 in order to, so the gentleman who was the first president there had gone to the College of New Jersey, which is Princeton, and he wanted a southern school that was just like Princeton University, and that's how that started. And I think Union Theological Seminary is somehow connected with that. He is buried out there at Hampton-Sydney. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I want to thank you very much, and if you get a chance, and this is a shameless plug for coming down to the Mary Washington House and some of our other historic homes. Tomorrow we're going to have two people that will be that are going to be interpreting Hugh Mercer and Henry Mitchell. And they were on the different sides of the war, but they were Scots that had come over here for a better life and then had to negotiate the Revolutionary War, being on either side.
Veronica, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for setting this all up. As you see through the end of the evening, there's a Scottish heritage focus that's there, and I was trying to think, well, what's my connection with that? And I guess, Samuel Wilson is the first Presbyterian minister, one of the last ones to come in, hopefully with many more coming after that. If you're visiting with us, my name is Sean Whitenack. I'm one of the pastors here, and Veronica asked me to say a few words before our final stage presentation tonight with the history of bagpipes coming up. And as I was thinking about this night ahead of time, there was a couple things that came to my mind. One of them was an experience I had recently. I'll mention that in a minute, but it was an experience I had in a trip I had last week in Israel. But the verse I want to share is this. It's out of Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10, which says that I'll go ahead and read it. If I can find it. Well, I'll go off memory. It says that we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand, that we should walk in them. So 2 things I want to draw out of that is, number 1, that we are God's creative work. In the beginning, we see God the creator, God the one who creates all things out of nothing by the word of his power, and then out of dust forms man. Out of Adam's rib, he forms Eve. And so we see God as a creator, and we're created in his image. Then we see another work of creation, which Ephesians chapter 2 speaks about, that we're his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works. The point that means is that we are recreated, in a sense that if anybody believes in Jesus Christ, that there is a wonderful promise that though sin has corrupted us in our original creation, that God, through Jesus Christ, recreates us. He creates us in his image for good works. Things we'd walked away from, now we walk in them. And so there's another passage which says that if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has gone and the new has come. And so when we look at things like we see around us, like we've seen on the stage performances and other places, what we see is humans, us, who are God's creation, created in his image, imitating God in that creative sense, taking things which are unformed and then making them into something that's newly formed, or even taking something which was used for one purpose and then where it's reused for another purpose. And so that's one of the great works that God does, and it's also one of the great works that we get to do as his image. And so for all of you who have done something today and presented it around the walls or done on this stage, I just want to thank you for taking your time to do that. Thank you for your creative work. I'd encourage you just to keep creating. We can all create in different ways, but the things that you do to articulate beauty, wonder, to communicate something true about our world, to communicate some sort of experience of our world, these things are important. And in doing that, you are imitating God in his creative purposes. And so I want to thank you for taking the time to do that, especially if you're visiting with us or it's been outside of our congregation. Thank you for doing that. For Veronica, thank you for getting this organized so that we can enjoy this and do this together. My experience that I had last week in Israel, we're on a trip there. Jim Melnick and I were visiting a number of churches, and we had free time on Saturday night. We went to this place in Tel Aviv, and the place was called Hostage Square, because if you know recent history, October 7th, 2023, that there were, from Gaza, a terrorist group called Hamas came in and not only murdered a lot of people, but they also took a number of hostages. And so they've been holding those hostages for some 420 days. I can't remember the exact number now, but it was 418 when I was there, so we're over that now. And so at Hostage Square, they display the number of days that the hostages have been there, and people gather there to sing songs and to consider the hostages and to really hope for their peaceful return and their healthy return. And while we're there, we saw some return. But one of the things that was also at Hostage Square was artwork. And there was 2 that really struck my heart. I'll speak about one of them. And one of them was this big, gigantic heart. And it was made out of somewhat scrap metal. Like I remember one thing was like a disco ball sort of thing was in it. And there were some other metal pieces that were in it. It was put together and it was painted red. And over it was draped chains. And I read the little description that was under it, and the description said, that this giant heart was on display at one of their music festivals on October 7th, 2023. The chains weren't on there, but the heart was there, as a representation of the love that they were supposed to be enjoying and doing that. But then to see, now you saw the horrible thing that happened on that day where people were murdered, people were terrorized, some people were taken captive. And so now this heart stands as a monument of that day, but it's changed because now the chains are on it. Representation that there are still people who are in chains, as a result of that day because of the horrible things that happened. To remember them, to continue to remember them, to pray for them, and to work for their ultimate release. That was the message of it. But it was really a wonderful picture of me of how that sometimes these creative works that we do work is that we take something which was for one purpose and then it's reused for another purpose. And it communicates a different message. Because isn't that what we do in a lot of our work? Is we're displaying something of beauty, of wonder, or of truth, or of an experience, and so that others can see it and others can experience it well, but maybe in a new way that they hadn't seen it before. You know, the great story of the Bible that we see throughout is God creating us, mankind falling into sin, Jesus Christ coming so we can be recreated after his image, and then ultimately what? We see God's recreation, a new heaven and a new earth spoken of at the end of the Bible. I just want to read that briefly out of Revelation 22, just a couple verses, but it says, "The angel showed me the river of water of life, bright as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb through the middle of the street of the city. Also, on either side of the river, the tree of life with its 12 kinds of fruit, yielding its fruit each month. The leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. No longer will there be anything accursed, but the throne of God and the Lamb will be in it. And his servants will worship him. They will see his face. And his name will be on their foreheads, and night will be no more. There will be no need, they will need no light of lamp or sun, for the Lord God will be their light, and they will reign forever and ever." You know what we see there is a picture, right? A word picture describing a scene for us, so we can see that what God does in this new heaven and new earth is glorious, it's wonderful. It's a recreation of what was supposed to be, and he's making it into what will be, and it's something that all of God's people long for and to be with and to know that wonderful recreation, which God will do, and everyone who knows the Lord Jesus will be able to enjoy. Thank you again for everyone who has participated in this. Veronica, thank you again for organizing this, that we can enjoy this. And before our last performance comes up, would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, you are the great creator. You are the great recreator. God, though we have fallen in sin, you have in Jesus Christ recreated us for good works. We rejoice in that wonderful truth and pray, God, that you would help us to know the power of that recreation and the hope of a new creation to come. I thank you for the gifts that are here and displayed around these walls, Father, and thank you for the gifted people. And Father, would you continue to use them and their gifts for your purposes to display wonder and truth and beauty and experiences, Father, that we can understand more of this world that you've created and what you're doing in it. We ask you for your blessing on these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
And also, a member of the choir. Wallet, a black wallet. If you can have a look around. Did you find it? Oh, did you find it? No, he did not. He did not. If you're announcing it. Yes. So please keep an eye out for a black gentleman's wallet. You're in for a treat. Bagpipes. All right, a little bit of history about bagpipes. Apparently, they can be traced back to ancient civilizations. With many, there's evidence of the instrument in many cultures. Bagpipes are one of the oldest instruments known to humans, honestly. The bagpipe may have originated in Mesopotamia. Some historians believe the Romans introduced bagpipes to Scotland. Thank you to them. Others believe they came from ancient Egypt. Early use, bagpipes were used by herdsmen because they had the necessary materials to make them. They were used in European military contexts by the 16th century. But in my home country in Scotland, they were first recorded around 1400. The Great Highland Bagpipe, I'm from the Highlands, became established in the British military. The bagpipe became a national and martial instrument in Scotland in the late 18th and early 19th centuries. They're often played at military occasions and formal ceremonies. It's the official instrument of the World Curling Federation. Woohoo! They're played at weddings, funerals, and Christmas in many countries. My great-grandfather served in World War I, and before they marched and came out of the trenches, the bagpipers would go ahead of them, and they would pipe the Scots into battle. And the Germans called the Scots regiments devils in skirts. They were scared of them. Bagpipes would be banned at many sporting events. The English would ban the bagpipes if the Scots came down to play down at Wembley or at Twickenham for soccer or for rugby, because it gave us a little bit of extra oomph. So, anyway, if you've got your earplugs, I think you shouldn't have to wear them. Welcome to Donald Glander and Micah Terrio, students at university and members of the University of Mary Washington Pipe Band.
Y'all hear me okay? Yeah. Great. So that's a tune that I'm sure a lot of y'all know. That's Scotland the Brave. We go into a tune called Wings. Since we've already covered a bit of Highland and bagpipe history, I guess I'll talk a little bit today about just how this thing works, and also a little bit on how bagpipes work in the modern day. So, bagpipe, right? Specifically, this is the bag, and these are the pipes, right? So the way this works is actually pretty simple. If you take a standard woodwind instrument, right, you just like blow into that like a flute or something, just blow into it. The bagpipes make it a little bit more complicated by having you blow into this big bag of air, this like sort of lung thing, and then you squeeze that, and it's actually the squeezing that causes this is the chanter, it's what I play the melody on, causes that to sound, as well as these three things right here, which are called drones. The biggest one is the bass drone, and then the two tenors. So, you know, if y'all know music, you got bass, tenor, and then I guess this is like alto or something. The only thing I'm doing with my mouth is I'm just constantly refilling the bag. As long as I'm breathing into this thing, the sound will go on forever. So the bagpipes, they have 2 volumes. We have loud and off. Also, because I'm constantly blowing air into the pipes and because I can't shut them off without turning them off, there's actually no way for me to do rhythm on this thing because it's constant sound. So if you heard what I was playing just now, you might have heard or you might have seen a couple really fast movements with my fingers. We call those grace notes. They exist in other types of music, but they're very common in bagpipe music because these little tiny blips, these little tiny chirps, are the only thing that we can do to distinguish note from note. So I'll go on a bit more about how other parts of bagpipe culture works. These next 2 tunes we're going to play are Mari's Wedding and Johnny with the Bandy Legs, 2 classic Highland tunes. We actually sang Mari's Wedding earlier. I talked about that a bit. This is the pipe version. It's a little different, and that drove me nuts when I was trying to learn the song. So here we go, Mari's Wedding and Johnny. All right, quick, work. So you might notice that every single bagpipe tune starts the same way. That's for a reason. It's how we count off our marches. The bagpipes and the drums are marching instruments. We're war instruments. We're used to, that kind of marching scheme, I guess. So it sort of operates a lot like if you've ever been in a marching band, seen a marching band play, or military. It's kind of like that. There's a lot of very specific rules for how you start things off. So we do what's called calling off, and whoever the head piper is, which in this case is me, because I'm the only piper, he goes, or she goes, by the right, quit, march, and then Micah goes, and then we hit our drones. If my pipes are set up right, they would do it right, but I forgot to do that, so they've been weird all night, and then we go into the tune. Every single tune starts the same way. We're gonna play a couple more. This one's called High Road to Garlock. I'm probably saying that wrong. And Into Brown Haired Maiden. It's another very common set. Bagpipes, we play sets of tunes as opposed to just one or two songs. Well, as opposed to just one song and then another song, we just play a set which includes anywhere from like 2 to a bunch of tunes. But most of these just have 2. There's High Road. All right, quick, march. bagpipes is if you leave them sit for too long or don't hemp them properly or something will go wrong. Like this. If you breathe too much, breathe too little, don't squeeze right, don't squeeze in the right place. I just recently had to swap a bag, and that old bag struck in differently from where this one goes. So, let me just struck in first, and then I'll cue you. Next tune is actually one that the founder of the Mary Washington Pipe Band wrote. It's a tune called Willie Manderson. It's named after the president of Mary Washington when the band was made official. Salute to Willie Manderson, I should say. All right, quick, march. So, what y'all been hearing for everything that we played so far, and probably what you're most familiar with when it comes to bagpipe music, are what we call, hang on. Well, it's called light music, and the Gaelic is, I want to say, Kelmore. No, Kelbog, I can't remember. Anyway, there's two types of bagpipe music that we play. Kelbog and Kelmore. I can't remember which is which, but in Gaelic, one of them translates to light music, and one of them translates to great music. So, The most common type of bagpipe music that the public is aware of is the light music. That's anything from a march, what we've been doing, to jigs, to reels, to struss bass, to hornpipe. All those are all different types of dances. But the earliest form of bagpipe music is called pibroch. Now, pibroch is quite interesting. It is not set to any meter. So most music, right, is like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 1. You know, there's some sort of time signature, right? Pibroch is different. Pibroch is, you have a vague idea of how long you're supposed to hold each note, but it's very much up to the performer. It's very expressive. It's very spiritual. So I'm going to play a little bit, and the other thing about pibroch is that they are anywhere from 7 to 30 minutes long. They're often considered classical music, although they originate, 1500s, 1600s, bit earlier than most classical music, because the way in which they're composed is you start with a ground theme, and then you do variations on that theme. Now, I'm not going to play a whole pibroch for you. I could, but I'm not going to make you guys suffer through that. Instead, I'm going to play the ground of one of my favorite pibrochs. It's called The Desperate Battle. It was written by Angus Mackay, who lived, I want to say, early 1800s. And Angus Mackay preserved so many pibrochs that were just remembered and transmitted orally throughout the ages. And he wrote them down because he recognized that the art was dying. But due to his efforts and the efforts of a lot of others, we've been able to keep this instrument alive and keep its oldest music alive. So this is a little pibroch called The Desperate Battle. It's one of my favorites. I hope you guys enjoy. I'm just playing the ground. I'm not going to play the whole 20-minute version. So, what we just played, that is the Barry Washington Pipe Band's competition set. Hopefully in April, we're gonna be able to play that in front of some judges and be scored. Hopefully it's good. It may not be. The way basically every Highland competition goes is every place where bagpipes compete is each band prepares a set of 3 tunes that they play before judges, who are these like old cranky Scottish bagpiper guys who grade us, and tell us how we did. There's different tiers of competition. We're a grade 5 band. The top is grade 1. But before the competition and after, the bands all come together and they play what's called mass band tunes. And that's the stuff that we've been playing for you all tonight. The Murray's Wedding, High Road, and of course Scotland the Brave. And that's always really cool to participate in, to see. Basically, we're talking like 50 plus bagpipers and drummers all coming together to play these tunes, because that's what it's all about. So, I'm not going to play another mass band tune. The last tune that we're going to play for tonight is actually one that pretty much every single beginner bagpiper learns. It is a tune called Scots Wha Hae. This is a very old tune. The legend is that it was played at the Battle of Bannockburn. If any of you have seen the movie Braveheart, which by the way is grossly inaccurate. But if you know the story, that battle, 1314, bagpipes, the Highland pipe at least, didn't exist yet. So if they played it, they didn't play it on a Highland pipe. They might have played it on a different instrument entirely. Whatever. That's the story. That's the legend. Just goes to show they're not entirely accurate. The Great Highland Pipe probably wasn't developed until the 1500s. But this is a tune that every beginner piper learns, and it has words to it. It's lyrics from a poem by Robert Burns, or in Scotland as he's known as Robbie Burns. And I thought I would just recite the poem for y'all before we play this tune. I'm going to recite it in dialect the way that Robert Burns wrote it, but I'm not Scottish, so I might mispronounce some stuff. Hopefully not. Do I have the sheet? I haven't memorized it. I was going to, and then I didn't have enough time. So Scots Wha Hae is about the armies of Scotland marching in the Battle of Bannockburn, marching against the much more powerful, greatly outnumbered army of King Edward during the first Wars of Independence in Scotland. The English tried to conquer Scotland, and they failed. The army of Highlanders, the ragtag group that King Robert the Burns pulled together, was able to successfully defeat the English, and this is a rather touching poem. And I'm going to read it out, and then we're going to play the tune. And Scots Wha Hae, by the way, means Scots who have. Scots Wha Hae with Wallace bled, Scots wham Bruce has often led. Welcome to your gory bed, or to victory. Now's the day and now's the hour. See the frontal battle lure. See approach proud Edward's power. Chains and slavery. Wha will be a traitor knave. Wha can fill a coward's grave. Wha say base is be a slave. Let him turn and flee. Wha for Scotland's king and law, freedom's sword will strongly draw. Freemen stand and freemen fall. Let him come with me. By oppressions, woes and pains, by your sons and servile chains, we will draw our dearest veins, but they shall be free. Lay the proud usurpers low, tyrants fall in every foe, liberties in every blow. Let us do our deed. And this is the same tune. Well, this is the tune that the lyrics go to. Scots Wha Hae. Pipe Band at UMW. We play at a lot of community events. We're supported primarily by donations, so if you like what you heard and you want to contribute, we very much appreciate it. Thank you so much. Y'all have a wonderful night.
Well, now I'm completely homesick, and I think we should all go home and Google flights to Inverness right now. But thank you so much for attending this evening. Please note there'll be other performances tomorrow night, and there will be a special performance by Colonial Fair at 8 p.m. So enjoy the rest of your evening and drive safely.